Hi, everybody. Welcome to this session 6B on design cognition, digital conservation and heritage, and the Anthropocene. Very interesting session with lots of different topics, hopefully making for a very interesting discussion. I will introduce all the panelists, but please be reminded to use the Q&A to ask any questions that you want to ask to any of the panelists. You can start immediately at any time. I will try to keep track of all the questions that appear here. Let me share my screen. Okay, so this is the list. It's of the panel, of the papers, the authors, the panelists. I changed the order slightly from what was in the program because I tried to group them a little bit. Obviously, this grouping is very subjective. So please, Sam, for example, please don't be upset when you're not in digital heritage, but you're in a different group. This is just for me to help to get the discussion going. Obviously, there is, it has no further meaning whatsoever. But let's please go through the list and see if everybody is here. And please just take a few seconds to introduce yourself, where you're from, and maybe you can tell us what time of the day it is at your place here in Singapore, where I'm working as an associate professor at the National University of Singapore. It's just past noon. It's so it's just an hour ahead of Bangkok time. Okay, let's start with Sam.
So I'm Sam McLennan, and I'm a recent master's student. I just actually finished it, and it's actually just 4:15 in the afternoon here in New Zealand. So, yeah.
Okay, great, Sam. Then we have Hyung-Joon Park.
Aloha, this is Hyung-Joon Park from School of Architecture at the University of Hawaii. So current time here is 6:18 p.m. So quite getting into the evening. So good to see you guys.
Great, thanks. And then we have my own paper, but Andrew Lee as co-author is, I asked him to be the panelist. Andrew?
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew Lee, and I'm the collaborator of Rudy on this paper, and I'm in my office at Kyoto. You can see this office here, Kyoto Institute of Technology in Japan, and it's just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Great. Then we have Hugo Mulder.
Yeah, thank you, Rudy. I'm in Copenhagen. It's 6:15. I'm drinking my morning coffee. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Southern Denmark, where I study kinetic and adaptive structures.
Great, thanks. Then do we have Xiaolang Yang Shu?
Yeah, that's me. I just come in well, so yeah, okay, can you hear me? Yeah, anyway,
yep.
So I'm the classmate with Sam, so I just graduated my master's as well. So, and also I'm in New Zealand. It's 4:30 p.m. now. Yeah.
Great. Sorry, it's technical problems. Thank you. And then we have Eloisa. Are you here? All the way from Brazil? Or Erica? No? Okay.
Erica here.
Ah,
Hi.
great. Sure.
Hi, my name is Erica. I am master student in University of Campinas in Brazil. And now in Brazil is 1 and 19 a.m.
Wow. Very late or early.
Yes.
Okay, next is Hannah Rushton.
I will be presenting on her behalf.
Sure.
My name is Margaret Schnabel. I'm also from Wellington. Now, I guess you can remember what time it is now in Wellington. While we go down here, the class roll, I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Architecture and Design Innovation. Great to see you all.
Thank you, Marco. Next is Chitraj Bisonot.
Hello, everyone. Chitraj Bisnet. I just started my second year for my PhD research. I'm currently at the University of Xianjiatong Liverpool University in China, and it just past 12 right now. Past noon, sorry. Thank you.
Great. Next is Marie Davidova. Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Marie Davidova. I'm from the World School of Architecture. So I'm in Cardiff, and it is 5:22.
Too early to remember. Great. Thanks for getting up so early. Next we have Karen Lee and Tom Schick.
Hi, good morning, and hello from Tel Aviv. Karen Lee Bar Sinai and Tom Schick. We are from the Technion Israel Institute of Technology in Haifa, and we are both PhD researchers, and we couple what we think as the marriage of robotic tools, long-lasting techniques, and the very old matter, sand and stone.
Great, thank you. And then last but not least, Rodrigo Martin Iglesias.
Hi all. I'm very excited to be here. I am in Buenos Aires. Here is 23 minutes past 1 a.m. So it's, I don't know, late or early. And I am a full professor of the University of Buenos Aires. And my connection is quite unstable now. So here it is my co-author, Christina Boto from Italy too. In case I leave the conversation, just don't be mad if I leave, because it's because of my connection.
Okay, well, we hope that your connection will survive. And thank you for being up at this late at night. Okay, great. So we have not much time, and I would really like everybody to be able to answer questions. So let's get started immediately. We don't have any questions yet from, I will stop sharing my screen now. We don't have any questions yet from the audience, so I will start with the first question. I would like to start with Sam. And basically, your work is an analysis of a body of architecture, churches in New Zealand representing a style, and it's for the sake of virtual reconstruction. But my question is, do you see the result as a design tool? And if not, if it's more than just a design tool, why are the rules that you talk about in a way obfuscated by the procedural modeling?
So I think really it's more of like a methodology. I think it's kind of the process of collating all of the information together and then getting the rules from that. I think it's more about, rather than like creating a package that can do that, I think it's more just to sort of get that process going and seeing if other people can use my method in a similar way. I mean, having said that though, a lot of the process could be automated, kind of more, just exploratory. And
Sure. But may I ask, might there not be a better way to explicate the rules than through, the procedural modeling is basically a program. It's kind of like, it's almost like a black box.
Yeah, I suppose, I was using it for like visualization as well. It was really quite a general sort of exploration, and really afterwards I kind of rationalized it out to what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I'll move on, but hopefully, there'll be some opportunity. In any case, if any of you of the panelists want to ask a question to each other, please feel free to also share your questions in the Q&A, just like everybody else. So, I mean, I see a lot of similarity. That's why with the work with the next two on shape grammars, although you obviously didn't use that. So, and Young-Joon Park actually also, you also created a design tool, or presenting a design tool. But the difference really with Sam is that it's based on an analysis of a single design rather than a whole collection of designs. So my question would be, what do you see as the value of the approach beyond the particular example?
Well, that was not about the making a designing tool. The core of the stylistic reproduction was in the how to define the fitness function, objective function of the given artifact. So the point is, through the shape grammar, we are able to translate those geometry into the set of the rules. At the same time, those rules became the design constraint. That was the basis. After that, in order to follow that the originality of the painter, Mondrian, we apply the proportionality. The point is using that this kind of unique criteria. So the optimization in these days have been applied for the certain areas who are able to have some kind of quantifiable measures. In that case, structure, environmental measure, and those things are very easy to employ the optimization because the criteria, fitness function, very clear. However, when you get into some kind of aesthetics, some kind of cultural issues, what kind of measure we are going to apply? So in that sense, the contribution of this paper is extend the domain of this kind of applicability of the optimization. That was my explanation.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Andrew,
you know everything about this project already.
Sorry?
You know everything about this project already.
I know.
Okay.
And you're a shape grammarian, so of course you know a lot about the previous papers as well. I mean, about the whole what's behind it, the formalisms, etc. But you're focusing much more on the design side rather than the tool side. Is that a good way of expressing it?
No, I would say it's about the designer. The shape grammar is the tool, and we're making a kind of hypothesis about how users find that tool useful to use. And so it's not so much, I mean, of course, design is one use of it, but I think stylistic analysis is also a use. And but that's actually another interesting area that we haven't really gone into. But users, if they're using grammars to do this, then we need to know what, if they're going to think about design analysis, how are they going to use a grammar to get at that question? And we hope that our tool we can find out how that happens.
Great, thanks. That reminds me, I'm gonna throw my order out of the window, and I'm gonna move on to Chitre, because your work actually, kind of connects to what Andrew was talking about, where you also working on a design tool, and then trying to understand how designers use that using ethnographic study. So, I mean, maybe you can say something more specific about that, but let me ask this question that I had. I really appreciate this ethnographic inquiry. I think it's very important and useful in this way. I'm just wondering, compared to the approach that Andrew and I are doing, how can you draw, generalizations from these observations that you are making or hoping to make?
Well, thank you for the question, first of all. The study in this study, actually, the focus was not really on the design tool, like the outcome of a tool. It was mainly on this collaboration in advanced practice, because I went to an advanced architecture and engineering firm in Shanghai, RFR, and there I was looking at how designers, what do they do when they design? What is this kind of collaborative activities happening in design? And I employed an ethnographic research method, which is derived coming from the anthropological studies. And why I did that, because again, as I'm mentioning, I'm looking to uncover information that is not socially driven. And one of the things, when you're talking about generalization, and yesterday too, there was this discussion within the PGSE discussion. And coming from a background, I have a background in architecture. I graduated my master's, and I have a background in architecture. And what we are concerned, first of all, as designers, as architects, we are concerned with particularities, as compared to scientists who are concerned with generalization. Using the ethnographic inquiry, I used a method that gave me a particular understanding of, I wrote about the particular instances of collaborative activities in practice. What I was not looking to generalize, what I was looking is, I'm employing a method, and I have point of views, which is because it's me who's observing. And this is what I think is very important for us as designers. It's all about the process and the outcome. For example, I read why I think also it's very important is there was a book on ethnography, because I also do not have any background in ethnography, and there was a very nice book about a lady, a professor from the University of Manchester, who carried out an ethnographic inquiry in Amsterdam at OMA. And she wrote very nice things about designers collaborating every day, making models, model making, talking, this kind of very dynamic environment. And when I went to RFR in an advanced architecture and engineering practice, what I witnessed was so different, even even though it was an ethnographic inquiry. She wasn't meaning to generalize it, though. But what I found is totally different. I witnessed a practice when I went there, people not talking to each other. They were communicating. They were so busy creating the design tools on their computer, communicating via WeChat on their computer. And then I found myself, wow, it's a shock, because I was expecting to see something very different. But then I found that people, start from 9 to 10, 11 a.m., not talking to each other at all. Well, very few communication. And most of my information I could gather actually was over lunch break, So it's not about generalizing, it's about actually having a research method, having a process which could be applied in different circumstances, in different practice, and then we see what comes out, you know, and all, yeah, that's what I think is more relevant for us as designers. Yeah.
That's very clear. Thank you very much. Okay, then we'll move on to, I'll jump back to Hugo Mulder. Obviously, this is not about tools. This is actually, your work is, I think, much more theoretical, although obviously applied to design. So my question would be, how do you see the impact of the concept of building cognition, which you are, well, proposing in a way, applied to design, beyond the merely kinetic aspect of the architecture?
Yeah, thanks, Rudy. That's a great question. My research has focused on kinetic architecture because that is sort of what I know a lot about. So for me, that was sort of the obvious territory to operate in. And the idea of the particular idea of cognition that I try to apply has a similar sort of fascination with movement. So that those things seem to go quite well together in this research. However, you're right, it doesn't necessarily limit itself to kinetic architecture. And a lot of the things that I'm writing about, I'm using the terms coupling, acting out, and exteriorization would apply to static forms of architecture in some sort of way as well. I also think that my particular framework is in itself quite specific. So just looking at the framework and the sort of the theoretical background, even that could be sort of reinterpreted with different ideas about cognition, and therefore become more widely applicable to a sort of a larger range of architecture. I think the main thing I'm trying to say is that as we are designing buildings that become more autonomous, more infused with technology that makes these buildings intelligent, so to say, or cognitive, as people say, operating in that field, I feel there's a disconnect to designers. And what I'm trying to say in my research is that we should sort of reclaim that area, and that using the design methodologies that we've been using for so many years, we could actually start to design forms of cognition, and that's what my framework sort of tries to give some handles on. But I have to admit that it's, in a way, it's quite far away from a practical implementation into design practice, although on a sort of a more speculative level, it could definitely be used. I don't know, does that somehow answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. I look forward to, seeing more developments in this area. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be really keen to get feedback from others as well, and see how we could collaborate on this. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So then we will jump into a session on digital, a sub-session on digital heritage, and I'd like to start with Xiaoliang Xu. The question I have is, so you use VR to bring digital heritage to life. But I would like to ask you, one step further. In your case, the interaction is dynamic, but in a way, the data is static. The model is relatively static. would there be an advantage to the understanding of the digital heritage by the user by allowing the user to act or react beyond the movement?
Yes, thank you, Rudy. So for our research, we pretty much through the two interpretations. The firstly is about the context interpretation. The context, like what you saw, is our project. So this is like in my research, it's a garden, and such as a garden or the temple or the church is the object. But also the second section is about the content reinterpretation. That means we build up immersive environment, such as lots of activities and also intangible heritage to give people like a feeling of the culture. So for that part, you know, the research is based on painting. So actually, is this one. So the painting itself is 12 meters long. So for the painting, I spent kind of a while how to converting a 2D into a three-dimensional kind of like a object, and also augmented by lots of like a historical writing document, whatever the poetries or like books or journal articles. You know, in the books or poetries, they're more describe the experience. I mean, the atmosphere in the garden. So it's not really just about the object. So I was trying to give people like kind of like what is the feeling, what is the activities, what is the atmosphere like in the 19th century of a Chinese garden. Yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Then I'll ask a question to Erica. You talk about, I think you talk about augmented reality, although in a way, I see there's a lot of similarities, I mean, to some extent with Xiao Lang's work. But I was a little bit, I found it a little bit complicated, bringing in the idea of the digital twin. So my question is, what's your definition of a digital twin? And how does your application relate to this?
Everybody can.
Yes, we can hear you now.
The idea of digital twin is a representation the same building in the representation, the same building in the situation in Brazil. This building is very important in the context on the building is stale, and I'm so nervous.
It's okay.
Oh my god. Yeah, idea of the application is this: the present virtual reality is the user can learn about the architecture, about the building components, and they have the experience of the tour in this important building. Can understand this?
Okay. Is there a time-based aspect to the model? Erica, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Can you repeat, please?
Sure, of course. So I was wondering if there's a time-based aspect to the model or to the experience.
How can I? Oh my gosh.
Did you understand the question? Erica?
Hi, can you repeat again? Sorry.
Sure. I was just asking if there's a time-based aspect to the model or to the experience.
Used to model the building with laser scanning, and you do the flights in the building. You have client points, and with the client points, you do the model of the building.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And the last one on digital heritage is Hannah Rushton, but you take a very different, Mark, you're responding to that.
Yeah.
In this work, you take a very different approach. Well, very different. I mean, because VR doesn't stand on its own. It's integrated within a physical exhibition. But could these approaches not be complementary in some way? I mean, meaning what I'm trying to say is in your approach, you very much consider the integration as a necessary part. I was just wondering if people might be able to experience the VR part also without the physical part.
Well, yes. It's like the $1 million question. You want to be a millionaire here. And I want to consult my friend on that. Now, we look at what is actually digital heritage and what is the authenticity in a digital heritage. Can there be an authenticity? Or even if you're not looking at the digital in heritage, what is the authenticity and who controls these ones? And very typically, this is controlled by GLAMs, meaning galleries, museums, academics, and so on. But it is actually we all want to be part of it, and we want to define what is heritage. And now in a digital environment, it allows us to have a bottom-up approach in this context, basically an unmediated context to heritage. And if you look at what social media do and how people express themselves and how a timeline or a certain gravity centers around certain topics, this is mediated by people. So it is actually the interaction which you put into a heritage context. Now, in a typical museum context, it's all given, and you look at this and you see the object or the artwork and you read the label and then you say aha to it and you go home. Now, the digital offers a component where it sort of becomes interactive. And this is a little bit related to the keynote, what we heard. How can we have the visitor and everybody actually be part of that heritage making? And this is where I think where the virtual component can come in, and it depends on how you then play out the virtual component. Is it just something which is what you see is what you get, and there is no interaction, and it's basically the same as a physical counterpart, so the mimicking of it, or is it something which is incomplete, or it respects the medium in which it is, so that as a visitor, as an audience, you can interact with that, leave your mark, and can enrich that heritage. And by that, carry it on. And that, if you take it into the context of a city, is also never, there's not a master plan and you move in, it's always evolving. And I think this is where we in the virtual environment can explore that much more.
Great, thank you, Mark. I see we have to, we don't have much time left, so let's move on. Marie Davidova. So all the next papers talk about kind of like the post-Anthropocene. And I think on the one hand, the term may be a bit exaggerated if we simply talk about geological areas. But the ambition, of course, that you're trying to, or that you put into this is, of course, very clear and very important. The question I would like to ask is, is it enough? What do you think is minimally needed to really remove human impact on Earth's geology and ecosystems?
Okay, thanks. Thanks for the question. I just wanted to mention I co-authored this paper with Yanis Zavoulas. I forgot to tell it at the beginning, so that wouldn't be nice. Yes, I don't think we should remove humans from like human activity on the Earth. What this paper is trying to say is it is discussing beyond human-centric design, which means that you don't have human on that pyramid, on that top of the pyramid, but everybody knows those icons, right? When you have a circle and you have all the species together, including humans. So we consider humans being equal part of the ecosystem, but it should not be, there shouldn't be belief that we should be ruling and we should be leaving. So what we are trying to do in our case examples is integrating other species for cross-species co-living on the planet, not being human-centric. Great.
Thank you very much, even though I had to miss the first part of your answer because I had some technical issues. I'm sorry about that. Karen and Tom, you know, I'm sorry about these questions. They may seem a little bit, I don't know, harsh or something, but it's just for the discussion. My question would be, is large-scale architectural and landscape construction, as you are presenting, by definition not representative of the Anthropocene?
I'm not sure I understand. Not representative?
Well, I mean, you're focusing on getting beyond the using materials locally, etc. I mean, I may be simplifying it a little too much, so that the impact of the human on the area is a lot less. But the kind of examples, the large-scale landscape construction, to me seem, yes, from a material point of view, maybe it is the right approach, but it still has a huge impact on the world and how, you know, other animals and plants, etc. Yeah, experience it.
Okay. So thanks for this question. First of all, yes, we are introducing a very large scale, but it's in terms of scope and responsibility. What you see in our background is a desert environment we work in. Which is one example to address your question of how we can rethink the way we build at large. For instance, by rethinking about sand and resources for construction. So we usually do rely on massive extraction of sand for our architectural construction, and on massive transportation of materials to the site and from the site. And what we really strongly believe is that digital tools allow us to come to the site and reconstitute what is already there. So in a way, we have to, like first societies, in some ways, we have to learn how to work with what is there in very particular, but also complex and overlayered processes.
Great. Well, it's definitely very interesting work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're getting to the last person. Rodrigo, are you still around? Or I saw Christina at one point.
Yes, I'm here, but I would like to give the word to Christina to have a
okay
to answer. Yeah,
sure,
if it's possible.
No problem. Thank you, Christina. Very interesting work. Very to me quite complicated because it's very theoretical and, you know, I'm not that strong. I think the specification, the framework, the terms, etc., can be very powerful. but can you maybe shed some light on how these can add to the discussion? I mean, you know, because in the end, it's about getting things done, I guess.
Yeah, first of all, hi to everyone. And I am Christina Boto. I'm a professor at Universidad de La Matanza, which is a public university in the outside of Buenos Aires. Yeah, I guess you are definitely right about the theoretical light of our paper. And the idea is really to think about new semantic. And I underline this aspect because Rodrigo and I, we shared completely two different backgrounds concerning formation. I mean, I come from semiotic, and we both studied design. We have a PhD in design, but my formation is really more theoretical, as you said. So I thank your question because it's really my part, I would say. So the idea is to think about new figuration, and this is why we try to really play and work with words. I mean, if you will see in the paper, we use very specific and very metaphoric figurations concerning the biggest idea about xenofuturism. I mean, our basic question is that if we have no longer the possibility to think about how to do with this Anthropocene, so let's just switch the semantic and grab the new opportunity that this environmental is giving us. And for doing this, we're trying to think about xenofuturism, which is an idea to think about the future as something that really comes from another semantic. So we are using different words, different terms, so different theoretical approach to really create new tools for thinking the future. I don't know if I answered your question in such little time,
well, I think,
but
no,
okay.
Sure, thank you very much. That's it's very nice. I guess we have just 2 minutes left. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the panelists. And then looking at the Q&A, there was one question from Halil Erhan to Chitre, but you've already answered it on the chat. Do you want to take a minute to say anything about that? Because maybe the answer could be, well, I guess everybody can look at it.
Yes. Well, can everybody see the question? Or?
I don't know. I can see it.
Okay,
I assume that everybody can see it, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, the question was particulars versus generals. Why to single out particulars and not to make connections between them for generalization? And how do you decide which one, particular or generalization, should be emphasized? Well, as I told him, I think we can always generalize. Sorry, wait. Yes, we can always generalize, and the idea was to the idea was to give justice to the richness of practice, of advanced architectural practice in and of itself. Many reports on digital design tool making often mask failures and dead ends. How negotiations happen, how negotiations happen in practice, how things change, how things does not go as we want, as we wish. I encountered so many of these experiences in practice, and in many of those reports, none of them are often mentioned. Our reports are very generalized in one way, or often very sanitized in one way. And this is also a tendency of theory making, because theory making tends to somehow generalize facts, you know. But this was the idea of ethnography. It seemed like anthropologists go into a tribe of in a tribe, and then they explore the community over there, what is the people's behavior, how do they share relations, you know, how do they communicate with one another, what is their rituals, you know. And this was my intention, to go and look what was the rituals at RFR when the colleagues collaborated. And one thing you will notice within my paper and also in my presentation is that I try not to use the designers as a third person, but I name them because I believe that it's their choices, it's what they decide, you know. And I think this is very important. Well, as a young cadre, this is what I think is important. And also, yeah, that's what I also said. I employed and applied ethnographic methods because I think a method is a set of generalized kind of procedures, and anyone could go in practice and apply the same method, but find or gain different insights. It's how we look at the problem. And this depends on our background, I think. It seems like, if I give you a very simple example, if you look at the design studio, all the students get the same brief, but come up with different design outcomes. It's because we see different things and we formulate the outcomes, or we frame the questions according to our outcomes, you know. And this is what I think is very important for us. The process, of course, the process could be generalized, but the outcomes is very particular.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for answering that question from the audience. I will close the session here. I would like to thank everybody once again for your excellent contributions, and hope to see you later at the conference, or, you know, have a good night to those people who's in the middle of the night. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.